Hey, Hilary, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, likewise. So I'm curious, when was the moment in your life where you realized, like, this needs to change? My relationship with money is not going well, and I need to do something about it.
Yeah. There are a couple very specific moments, and I don't remember exactly what chronology they happened in, but I'll tell you about one of them. I was working in a commission only position during the mortgage crisis. You call it the liquidity crisis. My income had essentially gone to zero. I had some other income. I was sort of dipping toes in two pools. But the point is, I had built up a lot of expenses. I had some initial successes, and the commissions can be big. And I had bought a condo and didn't have enough money left over to put furniture in it. And I had leased a BMW. So this BMW, I pulled it into the gas station. It was on empty. And I put my card into the ATM, the gas pump to get gas. And the card got declined. And I tried every card in my wallet and they were all declined at that point. My credit cards were maxed out and my bank accounts were empty. So I was just done. I mean, done, cooked. Like I walked home from the gas station and I left my gorgeous BMW sitting there. And I eventually had that car towed back to the credit union because I couldn't, I had sort of walked off the plank and fallen face flat into the lake. Right.
Mm.
um, I said to myself, well, Hillary, you can, and I've always been sort of a let's make it happen kind of a personality. And I have this sort of bold persona, but I had sort of boldly gotten myself into massive amounts of debt and lots of financial unworkability. And I said, okay, Hillary, look at, this is it. You got to figure this thing out. I'm not attached to anything I've been doing, any practice that I have. I'm no longer attached to what people think. Like I'm done. Now the only thing I care about is financial health. That I'm going to turn this thing around because I mean, at that point, I graduated from college with a degree in economics, summa cum laude. I
Mm.
mean, I was a certified financial planner and I'm not stupid, right? I was educated. I had really good intentions. I just had really bad results. And so it was really then that I thought, okay, I'm going to look at the aspects of money that I never have before. And that started my research into the science of money psychology, neuroscience, and kind of what, in my opinion, academia already knows about the difference between people who want financial success. I mean, let's be real, like everyone wants to be at least financially comfortable. Nobody wants to be broke. So the people who want financial success and get there and the people who never do.
Mm.
And that was kind of the beginning of everything. I
How old
say
were you?
uh 30.
Okay.
I'm 41 now. So it was, you know, '06, '07, something like that. I believe the liquidity crisis kind of really started in earnest in '07. The massive, massive stock market drop was in '08. So right around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then, I mean, you got your car towed. What
Yeah.
happened to your apartment? Like, what did you start doing? Like, you had this moment where you're like, this needs to change, and I'm
hmm
going to change this, which
hmm
that decision, that clear decision is usually a step in the right direction. But then what actions came after that?
It is. There's that quote about truly and earnestly deciding and how providence moves, right? Once you actually make a decision, all the things in the world come into view so that you can achieve that goal, that you've made your absolute decision that you're going to achieve. The first thing that I did was I moved out. I owned my condo and I had paid in San Jose, one bedroom condo. I paid $390,000 for it. It went up to 420. And of course, I took a home equity line out for like 95% of the value of it. So I had more mortgage on it. And then the value went down to, in the end, at the bottom, $190,000. So I had sort of $230,000 of uncollateralized debt, which is not a good thing. I moved out of that condo into my mother's guest room. Thank God for her. Thank God that I mean, I would have been homeless. I don't know what I would have done. And I rented it out. So then I had like a guaranteed income stream of $1,200 or $1,300 a month. And I think my costs were $3,700. So the home principal, interest, taxes, and insurance were about, if I remember correctly, $3,500, $3,700. So I'm still net negative cash flow. But I started telling everyone, I started getting honest with people. I started telling people, I can't pay for this. I can't do this anymore. whatever I need to do to make money. I started looking for a salaried position. Ultimately, I did go full-time in my father's firm. So I had been part-time as a financial advisor. Interesting that I was a financial advisor, right? A stock market expert during the day, advising multimillionaires how to deal with their portfolios, and then coming home to this financial
Mm.
mess.
Did you
And it was
just feel like shame?
exacerbated. Oh, so much shame. Oh my God. I felt like the worst kind of human being. Like, how could this happen to me? I think I got voted most likely to succeed at some point. It's one high school or something like that, right? It was like, yeah, most likely to succeed at building up tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Um, yeah.
Oh no.
So, but there's also this aspect of coming clean. I mean, yes, I wasn't running around telling my father's multimillionaire clients that I was, having this financial transformation. But I did tell, obviously, my mother, my father, my friends, because I couldn't go out to dinner. I couldn't go out to drinks. I was living on $8 a day for food. I created a budget. And when when I had salaried income, it was like, I'm going to have this spending plan, and I'm going to live within this spending plan come hell or high water, right? It's going to happen for me. And so, I mean, it didn't matter, whatever it took. I skipped meals. I don't think I drank anything but water for a year and a half. If people would say, let's go out to drinks, I would say to them flat out, if we're going out to drinks, you're paying because I can't pay. I was that straight about it, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to go out and watch you drink because I'm broke. So either you're paying or I'm not coming.
So you were really honest.
Yeah.
Do you think that honesty helped you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I started sharing this story, even then I still had shame about it. And so when I started sharing this story publicly, I will not tell you that I was this flat about it. You can tell I'm pretty flat-footed about it right now, but I also have different results, right? I've got a way different situation at this point in my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to share that transformation, but still I told myself for the longest time, why would I share this story with people? It's just going to make them think about me, all the things I think about me. And so it was hard, and it took sharing it openly to get flat-footed about it. So I was really straight about it. And ultimately I decided to give that condo up for various reasons. I knew that having $400,000 of indebtedness on something that was only worth $200,000 at the beginning of my financial life wasn't something I was willing to sustain. And I called the bank, the credit union, and I said, look, you're in this with me. You loaned me the money. And now the collateral is not measuring up. So you can foreclose on it if you want, but you're only going to be able to sell it for 190. Why don't you write me a 30-year fixed mortgage? Because I had one of those mortgages that goes up every month. Do you remember those crazy, they called them NAGAM or option arms? I had one of those loans, and they said no. And so I said, okay. And they said, well, we'll rewrite it for 5 years. Like they sort of were going to give me 5 years to kick the can down the road. And I said, nope, I'm ripping off the Band-Aid right now. So I'm either on board or off board. And it turns out I was off board.
And how old were you then?
It was like within a year of the BMW incident, the whole thing. It took me no, I think I had it was about a year. And then they foreclosed. It was actually a deed in lieu of short sale within 60 days or something. There was a padlock on my door, which was not, actually, I already felt like I was cleaning things up. So I was going to say it wasn't the best day of my life. Certainly was not the best day of my life, but it wasn't the worst day. It was like I knew it was coming. Unfortunately, they got my stereo, which pissed me off.
You said something really interesting, though, Hilary. You said, this was a turning point for you. And you said you ultimately gave it up, right? You let it go. You made that decision. You were like, I no longer want to have this. But you said something when you were just speaking that you called it the beginning. And it sounds like that's really where you started versus looking at your whole past as part of your story. It was like you reset it. And now this was a new beginning.
Yeah, I guess that was the context for me, was I'm starting here. So I started with $400,000 in loans, $60,000 in consumer debt, a lease on a BMW I couldn't pay. Like in my mind, I started there.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So this is probably something that everybody wants to know, right? Like, where are you now and how did you get there?
Yeah, so I shared this. I hosted my first live event this year in January of 2018. Profit Boss Live was here in San Jose. We had about 60 women in a room, and I said to them, "Look, I'm asking you to turn the paradigm on its ear. I want you to share openly what you're making, what you have. So I'm going to lead. I'm going to do that." And I did. And I went through the assets that my husband and I have built since we've been together, and the if you take out the resale value of my business, which is well over seven figures right now. I own a registered investment advisory firm where we work almost exclusively with women, and that's a very sellable business. So it's high revenue, high profit, recurring revenue. So that's about seven figures. So, but not including that, combined joint marital net worth is about $4.5 million. So I did it, right?
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
figured it
for
out.
sure.
I stopped doing the things that didn't work and I started doing the things that do. And and um and so yeah, so that's it. That's
Yeah.
in my opinion it's like, okay, that's clear evidence that I figured something out.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what are those things that you figured out or feel like you figured out that have gotten you where you are.
Yeah, you have to lower your overhead and raise your income. It's pretty straightforward.
The best advice is always simple, right?
Yeah. I had some really mixed up mindsets about money. I had gotten the message. My mother she used to work nights. She was a single mom. She, I think, had some very clear ideas about the things she was willing to spend on and the things that she wasn't. In retrospect, she was probably maxing out her retirement account savings every year, but I didn't know that. All I knew is that she wouldn't buy me the brand new clothes that I wanted. All I knew is that she wouldn't give me money to buy my friends' birthday gifts, right? And so I felt that pinch of I want things and I can't have them. And there wasn't a dialogue in my home of how can you go create that? How can you go make that happen? There wasn't that entrepreneurial spirit. I don't know if that would have made the difference for me. But anyway, I made up that there's never enough money. So I had a scarcity mindset. And then I also had a mindset that that BMW, for example, that the emblems of wealth were going to have people approve of me. So
Mm,
I like being rich is being powerful and being rich is spending money. And the key thing that I learned is that being rich is about keeping money. And so I lowered my overhead basically as far as it could go. And then I said, okay, now I got to go make a bunch of money. And and I started telling this story. I mean, I just happened to be in the financial services industry. So here I am, a financial professional having a financial transformation, a sort of Cinderella story. And I thought, well, let me just go share this. And that turned out to be my brand. And my business has, I mean, quintupled. It, it's just turned into a really nice thing. I have a team of 3 employees now and we work together. It's great. It's great. My business has actually doubled in the last 9 months.
cool.
Yeah. So
Cool.
we keep telling the story and it builds on itself and it leads to a really, um, uh, clientele that I love working with. I tell my story, they resonate with that, and then they come work with me. And it's just beautiful because I'm surrounded by all these people that I like.
Mhm.
So it's a fun life.
Yeah. So two things I want to talk about. One is how you mentioned that like kind of this external idea of what wealth is, right? Like these kind of, having the nice car and things like that to fill up the inner lack, right? We can do this in many different areas. Like I need to have this body so that I can have the relationship I want or whatever the area is. We can do this in many different areas, but it's really sounds like it's really coming from, looking at your mindset, one.
Mhm.
And then the other piece that you said was talking about, you know, being rich, so to speak, is really not it's not so much about what you're earning as much as you're taking home and you're actually keeping.
Yeah, exactly. So the first one was, sorry, remind me that because I got lost in it being about how much you keep. What was the first one?
Yeah, just like the ideals, the ideas about what it looks like to be rich, right?
Right. I mean, So I live on a street where, and I'm in San Jose, where I think the average price of a home here is over $1 million, $1.2 million or something like that. And I will tell you, I live in an area where the average price is probably 1.5 or 1.6 or something like that. And I know for a fact, because I see the inside of hundreds of people's financial lives, that you have no idea what wealth looks like from the outside. I mean, I think Warren Buffett is sort of that quintessential story, purchased his home in Omaha, Nebraska for $55,000 and still lives there. And he's a billionaire, right? You just have no idea what's going on the inside. And, I've shared my financial numbers on shows before, and I've got feedback from the show hosts that while a lot of their listeners relate to, oh, that's really inspiring that Hilary did that those same podcasters get feedback. Why would I listen to this? Hilary, her net worth numbers are through this in the stratosphere. I can't even relate to that. It's intimidating. It makes me feel bad about myself. And if you're out there and you're hearing this and you're thinking that, I just invite you, like, look I'm in a different place, but I've been wherever you are, I've been there. And it's silly to get intimidated and turned off by someone who's achieved a high measure when you could learn something from that person. And I'm only a few years away from indebtedness, right? I checked my credit score. I didn't have credit cards until last year. I didn't have any credit cards until last year because my credit score, I was still waiting for all that stuff to come off, So there were still vestiges of all that happenings. But money is this super emotional topic, and people don't want to accept that money is a very objective, binary blank slate. Money has no meaning. Money has no significance. Money doesn't even exist. It has no basis in reality. It's just a conversation. We human beings made it up. We live like it's true. And profits and voluntary exchange are a beautiful thing. The free market is a beautiful thing, that we get to do things that produce value for people. They pay us, and then I get to, create more value in the world than existed before. I love all that, but money doesn't really exist. But everyone who's listening right now has an idea. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is the root of all evil. Money is hard to find. You have to work hard for money. These are all really popular, what I call money operating systems. And so we're governed by them in the background until we pull them into the foreground and say, oh, that's just a narrative. That's just a story that I made up. Either I heard it from my parents, or a lot of times people decide, I'm not going to be like my parents, right? My parents fought about money. I'm never going to fight about money. Well, what that leads to is you can't talk to your partner about money. And then there's no partnership possible, no planning possible, right? And that's just an example of living your life in reaction to, which just creates no freedom, So we all have these money operating systems, and they frankly don't serve us, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are crazy about money. And I mean that with all my heart.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really true. It is such an emotional topic. You hear in business, people will say oh, only work with people who can pay you a certain amount, or, sometimes people give the objective of oh, I can't afford that, or I don't have the money. And so much of it is like the story. And then with money though, it is really tangible in the sense where you can see a number.
Yes, there is a measure to money. There is. Yeah.
So, then that can create all different emotions of oh, I can have more, or, oh no, I'm scared of losing it. Right.
Yeah. And all those emotions, if you really check with yourself, when I say this, all those emotions actually have nothing to do with money. So let me say more about what I mean. For a lot of people, money is power. So if you don't have money, you're powerless. And people who do have money, they're powerful. And so the emotion about it, if you have a reaction to when someone tells you their net worth and it's high, that's about power, right? That's about who you are in the world, or the fear of losing something and being homeless. Or someone I know used to say, oh, I'm going to live on cat food. I'm going to have to eat cat food. That's about fear of the future. It has nothing to do with money, nothing at all. It's just all these very human emotions. I mean, look, we're either in love or we're in fear, right? That's human nature. And I mean, I was just, I can't even remember what I was doing, but I was in this mom's group that I'm in on Facebook. And someone said something about she was going to do something with her business, and I got jealous. And then I realized I closed Facebook, and I have a stomach ache, right? And that's about like comparing myself to her and coming up short. And I wasn't even conscious that I did it. And then I thought, that's that thing you do, Hilary. Stop it. Like, your life is great. Life is fine. Stop comparing yourself. You don't need anything. All you're doing now is fun. You're doing what you want to do. You have this life that you designed, and stop comparing yourself. And I do come up short on some, if I compare myself on that specific measure, and I think that that's human.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, why all of a sudden do I have this like bad feeling? And then I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
was just on Facebook.
Yes.
Then I'm like, something triggered me and I don't even know what it was because I just like checked it and wasn't really paying attention. And then I'm like, why is this bad feeling hanging out?
And here I have feelings of inadequacy. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, it's so relatable and so true. So I want to ask you because, you know, intelligence, smarts, you know, also like some people are born into certain types of families, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't really have that much to do with, you know, your, you know, the family part maybe, but we can talk about that. But it doesn't necessarily have to do so much with how smart you are with how much money you can have.
Oh, it's almost uncorrelated. I
Yeah.
mean, right. I mean, we've all heard examples of really low skill, uneducated people becoming overnight successes. I mean, look at the pet rock, or the, what's that thing that grows, the plant that grows with the moss and it looks like a
Chia
head?
seed
To chia pet.
plant. Chia. Yeah.
You know, I mean, you
Now we're
might,
eating chia seed.
or acai berries. I mean, you might say that those people were marketing geniuses or product geniuses, but point being, no, you don't have to be smart to have money. Certainly everyone who's smart enough to own an iPhone, turn on their podcast player and listen to this show is smart enough to create financial success for themselves. And contrast that with, we all know lots of people who are ridiculously smart and living in poverty,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, I bet any one of you can come up with 5 examples of that in your own life right now. And then there's the people who come into money and lose it, right? Squander it. Lottery winners, people who get inheritances. NFL players are famous for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get the contract, they spend all the money, they get injured. No, they're bankrupt.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
let's
it's
talk
all
about
over
the
there.
psychology, right?
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of experience with the psychology, the neuroscience.
Yeah.
Are there key questions that can help somebody gain insight into what their money psychology is?
Yeah, and I've got a survey questionnaire PDF workbook on my homepage at hilaryhendershott.com if you want to go there, and then you can opt in towards the middle of the page if you're interested. I think it's called Mind Over Money. And so the questions you should ask yourself are, what do I believe is true about money? What's absolutely true for me? And you want to look into your experience. What's your experience? Is money easy to make? Is money hard to make? Do you spend a lot of time? If you're a workaholic, is that because you think you have to work hard for money? Well, that's a belief. That's not money's true nature. When you look in your bank account, is there more money in there than you thought there would be, or less? Do you write checks and then live in the float? I don't know if anyone writes checks anymore, but you must know what I mean when I say in the float. Do I overdraw my bank account balance? Do I borrow money from my friends and family? Do I loan money to my friends and family? Do I feel bad about having money? One of the things we know about women specifically is that women associate money with power often, and so we eschew power. For whatever reason. I'm not, but we eschew power, and I think it has a lot to do with, we think men won't find us attractive. So you ask a woman, what would you do if you won the lottery? Well, the first thing she'll do is tell you about all the people she'll give the money away to.
Mm-hmm.
Never about how she's going to build her own financial house or take control of her own wealth or make sure that she's taken care of. So I think you want to look into the actual your actual experience of money to look to determine what is that belief that's at play. And, you know, just the fact that money goes differently for other people should be evidence for you that money isn't that way in objective reality. Money is whatever you believe it is. And only when you identify what you believe to be true about money can you impact that.
Mm-hmm. So really looking at your current reality as kind of like a map to where you are and what you believe up until now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, interview your family and friends, not your friends, your nuclear family, the people you grew up with, you know, for, I
Oh, that's
guess,
an interesting one, Hillary. I
oh
never
yeah.
thought of that.
Oh yeah. So because your money script, your money operating system got created around the time you started learning language. So at some point, someone in your life said something about money, or there was an interaction about money, and you got, oh, money is blah, blah, blah. Right. And whatever you think money is, it'll be in very simple language because it probably got created when you were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, something like that. And it probably came from something your parents did.
Mm-hmm.
That's very likely.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed my mother about money, and I thought we were going to talk about how broke we were. And nope, that wasn't the case at all. She said, oh no, I just was more interested in saving than spending. So she's got a bunch saved, and we didn't have a lot of stuff. And you know, kudos to her. I mean, I'm super grateful now that she's retirement age. I don't have to take care of her. She's doing great.
So that's really interesting because I want to ask you about that, right?
Yeah.
Because here you have this adult, this mother figure, right, who's very powerful for a child, right? And so you look to her, and so you can't see all parts of what's actually going on. You're only seeing a really small percentage because you have a child brain, right? So,
Right. She didn't give me access to her retirement accounts.
Not yet. um, but so you're drawing a conclusion based on a very small portion that you see, right? This is often the case with beliefs, right? We take a really,
Yes.
really small portion and then we turn it into a belief, right? When we don't see the entire picture, but it was like, oh, she's broke because she's telling you, hey, no, like I can't buy your friend's birthday presents, right? But the reality was that she was actually saving money.
That's right.
So there was a misinterpretation of the reality, so to speak. And so even though she might have had a different money story in her head, so what was that like when you interviewed her and you realized like, oh, I went into the interview thinking that she was going to say, you know, the story that I have, but it was a totally different story. So what insight did you have then?
It's exactly what you just said. It's a misinterpretation of reality. It was like, my whole life, I thought we were poor. We weren't poor, right? We were just careful about what we spent our money. She wasn't raking in the dough, but we were fine. She had the right allocation of spending versus saving. And I think, isn't that though aren't all of our narratives about the past a misinterpretation of reality?
Yeah. And it sounds like yours was just like blown up, like
Totally.
wrong. Yeah.
Totally.
It's amazing.
Totally. Yeah. And yet, I'm still inclined to live that way. I'm now coaching I coach a program called the 50K Wealth Multiplier. And it's a program that's designed to increase your net worth by $50,000 in 24 months. So 2 years. And so we have these masterminds and we meet in the office. And I was telling the ladies, because we were talking about these beliefs, and just then the caterer walked in with the sandwiches. And I said, look at there's never enough money belief will always be there. I just have power over it now. I just turned around and I saw the caterer come in with the sandwiches. And my first thought was, I can't afford those. My first thought was, how much did those cost? Why did I spend that? I shouldn't have spent that much. They're sandwiches, right? For 11 women, it wasn't that much money, but it's right there. And, we're doing a remodel and blessings to the woman who is my designer on that remodel. And so we agree to stuff. And then she sends me the price tag and I freak out and I tell her no. And then she sends me the price tag and I freak out and I tell her no. My husband says, Hilary, you already kind of said yes to this, right? And it's in the budget. You should stop. And I said, oh, that's just that thing I do. right? I
Mm.
don't have enough money. I think I don't have enough money. Well, no, we've already created a budget. It's in there. So it'll always be there. I just have more power over it. And then, and then the other thing is, and forgive me if I'm taking the reins on this, you can stop me. But what I did was I created a pipeline of a funnel. I just said to myself, I'm going to go make more money, and I'm going to do the activities that lead to more money, no matter how I feel. Like, I mean, you could say I forced myself. But I activate courage every single day. I mean, I run a business where I ask people to give me their nest egg. I ask people, let me be responsible for your family financial affairs. I can handle this. And that's a big ask. And I hear no. And sometimes I think, I don't like the term financial advisor. I don't think it's a very well respected title, right? So I have to just be courageous every day. And so I get into action no matter how I feel. I make the calls, I send the emails, I conduct the meetings, and I just turn myself into an action machine. Like, I'm in action all day. Not,
Yeah.
I stop at a certain point. But I got really clear that I was gonna detach myself from the mess in my brain and my emotions about it. Like, I'm gonna go do this no matter what.
Mm.
And so you asked a few minutes ago, what did I do? And I said, you have to lower your expenses and increase your income. And I was in a position where I could be entrepreneurial, so that's what I did. And only recently have people in my life been saying to me, maybe you don't need to take so many actions. Maybe you can lighten up a little, right? Like take your foot off, that it's like slammed onto the gas pedal, right? But I'm glad that I was able to do that for a while.
Yeah.
Have a lead foot in the car of life.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love my metaphors. I hope you love them
Yeah.
too.
It's fantastic. um, and it sounds like those people just don't want to be your passengers right now.
Well, maybe they'd like me to slow down and have some social time. So I was like, could you just chill out for a second? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the cost of that, right? Like, I didn't do it perfectly, because there were times I would say to my husband, I'm working. Don't bother me. I'm working. Right? There's costs to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect.
So you started to talk a little bit more about the practical side of things, and I know that you've mentioned the word budget a couple of times, and sometimes people feel really freaked out by a budget.
Yeah.
But like, just on a practical side, what kind of budget and how have you set up your budget?
So I did use the word budget, and I'll be honest, I've published this, but I hate budgets. I think that the teaching about budgets is that you should categorize all your spending. So you need this pie chart, and then you have a category for everything: gas, transportation, food, gifts, soap, right? And then you have to manage within those budgets. I think that's nonsense. I think that if those budgets got created on their own, like if you spent something and it automatically populated your spreadsheet so that you could see how much was left, well, maybe that would work. But I don't think that those kinds of budgets teach people how to actually spend. And so what I did and what I do and what I teach now, and actually what I'm walking these ladies in my coaching program through, is what I call automation. And it requires dividing your money into categories, but not based on what you spend, rather based on when you made the decision to spend it. So what do I mean by that? If you decided in the past, you signed up for a membership, you took on a mortgage, a rent payment, a subscription, your auto insurance, like that, those are all decisions that you made in the past. I call those yesterday's promises. And then for money that you make a decision to spend on in the moment, that's called today's fun. And that's like gas, restaurants, groceries, gifts, anything you plunk down the card at the point of sale. So, you actually pull your credit card out. That's today's fun. And then savings for the future. Or some people start with debt, but debt payments can turn into savings for the future. I call that tomorrow's dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a savings account for everything you're saving for, all of your lumpy spending, your next car, vacation, the holidays. For 10 years now, 7, 8 years, something like that, I have had drama-free holidays. So I used to spend Christmas Eve at the mall, spending money I didn't have. And then I would, as the gifts got opened, when I should have been present with my family and joyful and giving, I was worried about the debt that was coming the month after. And I know that I'm not alone in that. And so I started saving every month for the holidays. So I say I have a drama-free Christmas. And so then you have to massage those numbers. So you got 3 categories and you have to decide how much you're going to do in each category. And that's really the part where all these rules of thumb dominate people, because I don't know how much you should spend on food. I got no idea. What are your values? I know people who are perfectly happy eating the same thing every day. Fine. That's all fine and good. Or for example, people don't care what car they drive. Fine. Drive a Prius and be done with it. And other people really want to allocate their earned money to a car. I don't know how much money you should spend on a car, but you have to find the balance of what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. So really having categories and then allocating money to those categories based on your specific goals and needs and values.
Most people find that their yesterday's promises number is way too high. So there are exceptions, but for most people, if you experience being constrained in the present, right? You go out into the world, into your day, you get in your car and go out in the world, and you find you can't or feel like you can't spend on the things you want to spend on. That's because your yesterday's promises is too high. That's like a big cinder block around your ankle, those obligations. And so for many years, I mean, my money looks different now, but for many years, I wouldn't take on nobody could talk me into a subscription. If it was a subscription, I wasn't doing it. No way. Because that takes away my freedom in the moment. And I'm all about freedom, man. That's my highest value. And I mean, one of the things is spending this way, I discovered that this is going to sound so silly, but it was a huge deal because food is a big part of your monthly spend, right?
Oh yeah.
I discovered, because I love hot sauces and sauces,
I was
spending half my food was going to condiments. Condiments, which are essentially calorie-free, nutrition-free, benefit-free.
I'm slightly guilty of that, Hilary.
I was like, what is this? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to buy the 1 bottle of green Tabasco sauce, which is my favorite. And I'm not buying any more stupid condiments. Forget it. I'll buy more condiments after I'm rich.
And that's my goal. Condiments.
Condiments. But I mean, when you're spending, a normal person has to spend $500 a month on food. If you go from $500 on condiments to not $500 on condiments, that's huge. Mm-hmm. That's a huge delta when I think at the time my income was $60,000 a year when I finally did get on a salary. So, wow, you're getting me to be very specific here. So, and it takes a while to internalize the benefits of thinking about your money in this 3 category way based on when you decided to spend it. I often get a lot of pushback. Well, but what about the envelope system? The envelope system's fine. I really haven't seen it work for that many people, and it's not what I teach. So if you love the envelope system and it's working for you, great. But otherwise, I recommend you consider automation and doing it this way. It takes like 30 to 45 days to really figure it out so that it's internal. But after that, you're just off to the races.
And when you say automation, you mean like just automatically like setting up your bank account so it just goes there.
Yep. You send automatic payments to all your yesterday's promises, all of your subscriptions, memberships, rent, insurance, like that. So it gets paid automatically. But most importantly, this is the linchpin of it all. You determine what your today's fund number is. So you look at how much money is coming in and you go, okay, this is my yesterday's promises. This is how much I want to go to my tomorrow's dreams. You got to know how much you're saving. And most people spend first and then save. I invite you to do the opposite. Determine your savings amount first, send that off to tomorrow's dreams. And now what you have left is today's fund. And so you have to fund that you need a separate account. I have 6 bank accounts, 2 checking accounts, and 4 savings accounts. And that's not for retirement. I'm talking about my next car. I pay cash for cars. And I'm the person at the car dealership. I said, no, I'm writing a check. And the salesman says, everyone borrows money for a car. And I said, not me.
I love how he says everyone.
Everyone does it.
Yeah.
It's like in junior high.
Like, not everyone has 6 6 accounts. I did
Oh,
that.
not
I went to
everyone,
the bank.
Joe.
I did that. And they look at you like you have 4 heads. Like, are you sure you want 6 accounts? I'm like, yes, 6 accounts.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did it.
Oh, so you're already automating.
Starting to.
Yeah.
I'm starting small, yes. But I went to the Millionaire Mind intensives, and they have
Mm.
this money management system. So, yeah, and the automation is great because it's a behavioral change. But if you're automating it, it doesn't take that much behavioral change, right? So,
In my opinion, the today's fund checking account is the linchpin of the whole thing. So you get this debit card, and this is how I lived for 7 or 8 years until I had a credit card. I lived on my debit card. I carried one debit card. I did not carry the debit card for my yesterday's promises account. Today's fund debit card, I think it would have $700 every 2 weeks. I'm just making that up, but it wasn't much more than that or much different than that. And that's how much I get to spend. And that's it. And so I would put that card down, and then, you're checking your bank account balance, like what's left now, what's left now. And if I wanted to spend something, if I wanted to spend $300 or $400 on something, I had to do it at the beginning of that pay period. And then I knew I only had $250 left to spend for 2 weeks. So you got to make it work. Right.
mm-hmm.
And so it created what I call intermittent luxuries. Like I wanted to go on a cruise with my friends. Okay, I went on a cruise with my friends. And then you know what? I ate 2 meals a day for 7 days or 8 days, right? So I could pay for it. I mean, I did whatever I needed to do. I worked extra jobs or whatever I needed to do. But I made it work, and I never dipped into my savings money, which is, like I said, that linchpin number, the linchpin practice.
Yeah. So I want to just talk to you briefly about your business now.
Yeah.
And so do you call yourself a fiduciary?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
So
nobody knows that word. It's like this weird word.
I'm learning.
Yeah. What
So,
did you read?
Tony Robbins talks a lot about fiduciaries because
he does.
And this is my understanding of it, is that you're not necessarily recommending things and getting paid from the things that you recommend. Whereas typical financial advisors, they say, hey, buy this stock, and they get a certain commission on that product or whatever it is. Is that kind of right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So most people don't realize that the industry of financial advice is relatively new. So in the 1950s and the 1960s, think about that movie Wolf of Wall Street, right? With that was Leonardo DiCaprio. No, it was the other guy. And
Matt Damon?
So Matt Damon, no, it wasn't Matt Damon.
No, I'm so bad at
I'm making such an idiot of myself right now. Well, I think it was Leo. Anyway, so Wall Street started really with stock brokering. So I'm going to sell you this stock. You buy the stock. I make a commission every time you buy the stock. And so Wall Street advisors really never let that go. They have these proprietary products. If you work with somebody at Merrill Lynch, Wells Fargo, Solomon Smith Barney, Edward Jones, any advisor that has a brand name on their web or their business card, that person works for the bank and sells stuff to you. Okay. So when they say buy this, you need to wonder, are they giving me something that's good for me or good for their pocketbook? And, ultimately your Wells Fargo financial advisor, they met with their sales manager in the meeting, the hour before they met with you. And their sales manager says, you need to go sell X number of blah, blah, blah. And then they go do it. Right. And so there's this small but growing cohort of financial advisors who are lovely, integrous, mission-oriented people, and we're out on our own. And so we give up that stability, that marketing power of that brand name, but we're doing the right thing. So I sleep well at night. I know I only get paid to give advice. I don't work for anybody except my clients. That's legally contractualized with the federal government. So I'm on file with the federal government as a registered investment advisor, as a fiduciary. So I've made that promise, and it's real, and it's a great way to do business.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So much integrity. Who are your clients?
So my website says Wealth Management for the Empowered Woman. I work almost exclusively with women, typically women can be women in the later years of life, widows, retired executives, divorcees, and that has been who my clients have been for a long time. they really, really, really enjoy that work. And what we do is we make sure they understand their money, give them a good plan, and help them with income tax, estate planning, cash flow planning, all those things. I have a client who is a multimillionaire, and I showed her how to use a debit card. So she
Wow.
didn't know how to get cash out of the ATM. She would go into the bank and write herself a check. And so I took her into Safeway and I showed her, I said, pull out the card, put it in that machine. So there's that. And then financial advisors kind of need to have an account size minimum. So probably a lot of people listening to this show know that some advisors won't really talk to you unless you have $500,000 or $1 million. And, it sucks from a lot of perspectives. That from my perspective as the business owner, it's really hard to do one-on-one work where you're not making a high income because you just can't make a lot of profit. I can't pay my employees. I can't feed my family. And from the perspective of the client, obviously it's like, oh, well, sorry, like I'm just at the beginning of my financial life. Sorry, I don't qualify to work with you. And both viewpoints are valid. So I really went to the mat to create a technology and a methodology to serve those people adequately and in a fiduciary way. And took us almost a year in R&D and development. And we launched Ignite Investing just a couple weeks ago on my podcast, Profit Boss Radio. And I'm really excited to be able to work with people who have starting from $25,000 to invest. And, we want you to be able to contribute to those accounts. We want to work with you to grow your net worth. But I worked really hard to surmount those account size minimums. And I'm really proud that we're able to do that now.
That's awesome. I
Yeah,
love that.
thanks.
Creating more opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the best advice you've ever been given?
So I thought about this, and I really think that in the context of what we're talking about today, it is that quote about being rich isn't about how much you get to spend. It's about how much you get to keep. When I heard that, it changed everything for me. It was like, oh, wow, I really didn't get that. And now that I do, I'm like a squirrel saving money for the winter. It's really, and it used to be really fun for me to spend money, and now it's really fun for me to save money. So I wish that for all of your listeners.
Yeah. I mean, we're often not taught that. It's like make more, 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 more. And then, sometimes with that more mentality, you spend more. That's typical too, where like, as you make more, you spend more, you kind of stay in that range type thing.
Exactly. And that's very common, super common. And there are a few exceptions to that. And then you hear people criticizing people who are quote unquote cheap. Oh, they're so cheap, they won't spend on that. And my reaction to that is kind of like, well, okay, but not spending money is how you get to be rich. So it's not my role in life to criticize people for what they won't spend, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in your finances, but if you don't want to spend on that, that's fine.
And it's about the habit, not the amount, correct?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's about what you do. I think Tony Robbins says this too. I think it's about what you do most of the time.
Right. Right.
That's what's going to create your life.
So if you start saving with $5, better than nothing.
Yes. That's a huge difference between I overspend by $5 and I save $5. It's only a $10 delta, but it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And that compounds and it accumulates, I should say, not compounds.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, I think, are we at the end? Are we out of time?
Yeah. About to. Yeah.
Well,
what were you going to say?
Well,
we've got time.
The title of your show is about profit and purpose. And I just want to say that I feel like I sort of fell into a life where profit and purpose are possible. And I'm completely fulfilled by my work and I love what I do. And I think that if you're pursuing purpose to the detriment of profit, I invite you to consider and look at your beliefs about money, because the amount of money that I own and earn relative to what's out there in the world is like a pebble of sand on the beach of the planet, right? There's so much wealth and money out there, and that we decide what's a lot, and then we keep ourselves under that ceiling. And I'm all for sort of just busting that up. And so I just really invite you to give yourself permission, to find a way to give yourself permission to be rich, to be financially free. And in this day and age, you can't really retire on less than $1 million. So we all need to be millionaires at the end of the day in order to be financially free. If you're an American and you're not living like in a like in a rural place somewhere. It's sort of the nature of it. And so I just really invite you to set yourself free.
Yeah. And don't be intimidated by the $1 million thing.
Oh, please don't.
Yeah.
Don't get intimidated. Just I wonder how I can do that. I wonder, wow, what's it going to
Wonder.
be like when I'm a millionaire? I wonder how I can get there. I wonder
Mm.
how close I am now.
I've been loving that word lately. Wonder. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's very freeing.
And I just realized today that in the word wonderful is wonder, because I've just been thinking so much about wonder, like
Yeah.
wonder. So nice.
And I
Yeah.
feel like wonder is tied in this really lovely way with being curious.
Hmm.
And so if you're bored in life, you've just forgotten to be curious. Like there's so much I don't know. There's just so much I don't know. Why can't I be curious about that?
Hmm.
I'm super curious about the people who run the cafe downstairs. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful, beautiful mindset because there's interest there. But I love how you brought up, I was talking to, we were talking before we started recording about bridging the gap between just profit and just purpose, right? And how do you bridge these two? And I feel like that's really what the show is about, that I don't talk that much about, but how important that is, because you're either end up unfulfilled or depleted.
Yeah.
And, from that place, it's really hard to give and contribute even greater to the world, your family and everything else.
Right. I mean, it's like when the oxygen masks come down on the plane, right? You've got to affix yours before you can help the crazy childlike people around you. And that's kind of how life is. Like you need to have a sustainable life. And there's this whole conversation for sustainability and being environmental. Well, be sustainable with yourself,
Mm.
create a life that works.
Yeah. And I love that you gave us all permission too.
I
So
give you permission.
yeah. Be
Thank
rich.
you.
Permission
Permission.
to be rich. We need that message as women, right? It's true. It's
Yes.
true. There's truth in that. So,
Yeah.
so tell us how we can get in touch with you, Hilary.
Well, I think the easiest thing, since you're already in your podcast player listening to this lovely show, is if you've got room in your podcast lineup, check me out at Profit Boss Radio. That is your weekly wealth mastermind. Every Tuesday morning, I do expert interviews. I do solo episodes where I talk about the aspects of financial planning. We've talked about Bitcoin, Social Security, interest rate hikes, all of that. I answer your listener questions so you can really get started on the right foot. And that's Profit Boss Radio. And you can also find me, I mentioned earlier, the Mind Over Money worksheet, which is available at hilaryhendershott.com. And Hilary has one L and Hendershott has two T's.
Thanks so much, Hilary.
Thanks for having me.